Okay, everybody, welcome back to our summary and commentary series on Plato's The Republic. We are on book 6. Dr. Jim, great to have you here as always.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Great to be here as always.
Yeah, looking forward to it. As always, a lot to cover here in book 6. So why don't I step back, let you give the executive summary, and then we'll
I like that.
dive in. Yeah.
So, and the funny thing is I had forgot. Okay, so I knew we were doing book 6, but I had confused book 6 and 7. So I thought we were going right to the allegory of the cave here.
We got to back up. Yeah.
Back it up. But also, though, first of all, I want to say I'm very much in love with my what's going on in my kids' AP English composition class right now. So I'm not complaining about this teacher. Okay. So I just want to be very clear on that, right? So that I'm really, really very happy that my in their AP composition class, my twins are reading excerpts from both the Nicomachean Ethics and the Republic, right?
Oh,
so,
nice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is awesome, right? Okay, they're seniors in high school and they had to do papers on that. But so, however, the excerpting of the allegory of the cave right out of the middle of the Republic has to stop.
I agree, man.
We need to stop this madness.
It's so abused in so many ways.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? And yeah, so just it then becomes this like, and this teacher has not done this, but it becomes this sort of like simulation hypothesis matrix scenario and all this that's not right. Okay, and so and the problem is what we're doing is we're reading book 6 without reading book 7, or reading book 7 without reading book 6. And people stop it.
Yeah, you need to at least warm up to the form of the good. You know what I'm saying? Before we talk about the allegory of the cave.
Yeah, all that. So
yeah. Hey, Jim, real quick, check your mic. It sounds like you might be on your computer mic rather than your headset mic.
Let me check this. Sorry.
Yeah, real quick. No worries.
All right, and you had so graciously advised me to do the headset, so let's make sure. I mean, there it is, man.
It sounds okay, but I just sounded just a little bit.
How's that?
Different. I think that sounds a little bit better.
How's that?
Sounds fine, but you're also closer to your computer, so it's good enough. Good enough for the government work we're doing here today.
Okay. Oh, I've got it. Let's see. It should be good now.
Yeah, sounds all right. Good.
All right, good.
Yeah, so you make a good point. I mean, like, there's so much to say about that. I mean, obviously, most people who've never even read any Plato are probably familiar vaguely with the allegory of the cave. But you're right? Is like, I think the significance of that can only be properly appreciated, certainly in relation to the whole, but absolutely, definitely in relation to book 6. So
yeah, and also this isn't just like me grouchy old man stuff. It is, but it's not just that. Right?
It's not just that.
It's not just that. And it's about like what education is, and which is not a theme ancillary to the Republic, as we're going to see as this unfolds, and just maybe like things like you and I might have concerns about in higher ed in things today. Right. And that, you know what I mean? Like
a little bit of sophistry, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because here's the deal. And once again, Mrs. Newman, I love you. Okay. So I really love what you're doing.
This is not directed at you.
This is not directed at you, Mrs. Newman. Right. I love you. I love what you're doing for my children. Okay. So, but I mean, the thing is when I pull out a piece of a text and teach it, I am less responsible to the author of that piece than I would be if I taught the whole text.
Yes.
Right. Like, so if I teach the allegory of the cave in the full context of the Republic, then I'm responsible for what happened back in book 6, not just what happened in book 7. Right. Do you know what I mean? So it's like the more we excerpt, and I find myself like looking back in the way I used to teach philosophy, I would do lots of excerpting and like sort of like arranging the course with bits and pieces of things to make it come out the way I wanted it to. Right.
Yeah.
Well, was that philosophical education, or was that sophistry? Was that me, cut and pasting my own narrative of the history of philosophy to make it come out the way I want it to come out? Right.
Yeah.
Whereas, just using this book as an example, as we talked about last time with some of the things that go on in the Republic, this is an ill-behaved text from an ill-behaved author. Right. Okay. And most really good books are very ill-behaved from very ill-behaved people.
Indeed.
And in as much as we are not just pulling out our preferred, easily managed parts out of that overall context of ill behavior, we're making the class about us. We're making the discussion about us and what we want this thing to say, not what it's actually saying to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the more I go on, the more I'm like, no, we're going to read the whole book, and I can't control the outcome.
Yeah, and I love that. I mean, come on, like, you know, children they're not stupid, right? I mean, my son he's not that old, but he just read the entire Gospel of Luke.
Yeah.
Like, the Republic is not, like, I'm not saying that, you know, look, even Jim, like, both of us are still learning from the Republic, but it's not a hard thing. It's not a hard thing to read through, right? No, like, it's just not a difficult project. There are some books that are just hard to read through, little and understand. Republic might be something that might be difficult to understand and might require lifelong study, but it's not hard to just read, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So like, if you're gonna do something with the Republic as an educator, just assign the full book. It's not that big of a task, right?
And as you know, what's probably more likely the case for most of our good listeners here, you as a self-educator, assign yourself the whole book.
Right.
Read the whole book. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, spot on.
And so and this is the case, because, you know, I was all ready to jump to the allegory of the cave, but no, we have to do the real work, which is back in book 6.
Book 6, and there's a lot of great stuff in book 6. Gets a little bit weird. It's weird.
It's weird.
I love the weirdness, right? Like, it takes a turn in book 6. We took a couple turns already, but I mean, it starts out with a lot of well, you give the summary and then I'll chime in. Yeah,
by all means, and feel free to jump in at any point, right?
Sure.
We're doing the dialectic.
That's right. Yeah.
This is our way, right?
Right.
And so what do we get? So back in book 5, where we left off, we were told that, you know, the philosopher doesn't want opinion, the philosopher wants knowledge, right? And really what this is all stemming from is, you know, we're told now that even among the guardian class, there's going to have to be a division, a hierarchy there too. Okay. And there'll be some of the guardians are going to be a little more martial, or they're young yet, right? So they're still in the you know, the procreative and fighting stage of life, and not up to the philosophical stage of life yet, or that's just where they're going to like peak out, right? So we're told now, within the educational system we have for the guardians, we're going to have to differentiate there between the auxiliaries, who are going to be the more martial types, and the guardians per se, which are going to be the more philosophical, musical types, right? Okay. And so now we have to distinguish that, right? And you can think of, like, just in the Greek mindset, like there was just awesomeness, right? And awesomeness was like wrapped up with both cultural, intellectual, and martial awesomeness, right? Arete, virtue. And now Plato's recognizing, but okay, so we need to kind of tease that out and ask who should run it, right? And he's saying, clearly we want the philosophy types running it, not the martial types running it. Because let's face it, you know, when the martial types go wrong, it's not good, right? Okay. So now that's teased out, and then this is in the previous book, and so now, okay, so what is the philosophy type after? The philosophy type is after not opinion, not belief, but knowledge. Okay. And what is knowledge? Well, we're told basically in book 5 what it's not, right? And so what is opinion? What is belief? It's that which is concerned with becoming, right? So the object of the state of belief is becoming. What's becoming? It's those things that both are and are not what they are, right? They both are and are not what they are. And, you know, my stock example on this is always, so my wife is beautiful, Jennifer is beautiful, okay, but also the sunset is beautiful too, okay? So there's a sense in which Jennifer both is beautiful and isn't beautiful, because she's not a sunset, but sunsets are beautiful, right? And the sunset is both beautiful and not beautiful, because none of them are Jennifer, right? And so the idea is like, you can't define beauty by Jennifer. You can't define beauty by the sunset. So whatever it is to be beauty, it's not to be either of those two things. Okay.
Beauty is that which, when seen, pleases.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
That's Aquinas' definition.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so,
which is a beautiful definition, honestly.
It's a beautiful definition.
But beside the point. Sorry.
No, well, yeah. But the thing is interesting thing there is like, one, and neither, like, both of those things are that which pleases by being seen. Okay. But also, they're very different, right? So if you ask me, what is it to be beautiful? I can't show you either of those things. right? And I can give a definition like that which it pleases to be seen, but note that is ultimately at the end of the day trivial, right? It begs the question, okay, which things? Okay. And so what does the philosopher wants? He wants that definition, but in a way that's non-trivial.
Yeah. And this is interesting because don't let me get sidetracked here, but this is what's really interesting about the principle of analogy and the way Norris Clark thinks about it, because he's like, in order to sort of capture it, you really kind of have to run up and down or across the chain of examples, and there's really kind of no other way to do it, right?
No other way to do it. But this is not. I mean, so I know you rightly really love that book, The One of the Many, right?
Yeah.
And what are we talking about? We're talking now about the problem of the one of the many.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
And The Republic is a book about the problem of the one of the many, right? And,
it is the problem. It really is.
It is the problem, yeah. And if you have the good fortune of reading Father Clark's book, right, he'll tell you, hey, by the way, The Republic, Plato, it's about the one of the many, right? Yeah, so you're exactly right. And maybe, and eventually down the road, as our discussion, analogy can come up and solve this. But Plato doesn't really seem to have a notion of that.
No,
right?
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't, yeah. Or as I'll always say, Socrates in The Republic doesn't seem to have a notion of that.
Spot on. Good.
Okay. All right. So that's the end of book 5. We're like, okay, so we want this knowledge and we know what it isn't. Okay. It's not opinion. It's not belief. Okay. Then we go into book 6, right? And then in book 6, we get, okay, like we're asked, like, what does the philosopher love? Right. Okay. That's the kind of like what the question that it begins with. And, there's this obvious, like just by the etymology of the word, philosopher is the lover of wisdom. Okay. But, we don't go quite that trivial. And we're told at the beginning what the philosopher loves is that which is. Okay. And that's being contrasted with that which is and is not what it is. Right. So the philosopher doesn't love becoming, the philosopher loves being, right? That which is ultimately stable. Right. Okay. And then we get, one of many places where the question comes up, like, what is the philosopher's relationship to death, right? And basically what you get in book 6 here is the philosopher doesn't care one way or another, right? Because the philosopher is concerned with what is, not what becoming is, and death is an issue for becoming, not for being, right? So the philosopher is aloof to this sort of thing, right? Okay. And I think this connects back very interestingly with what got the whole project off the ground in book 1 was Kepler saying, the most comforting thing about, being old, or it's only comforting, you can only be comforted in old age in as much as you're just. And then that kicks off the philosophical question of what justice is, because we want this in our dealings with death, right?
Yeah.
So we're kind of told here that this is going to solve like the problem that Kepler like laid out for us, right? Like the problem of death is going to get solved here because at least the philosopher's aloof to it, right?
Right.
Okay, so then once again, education then becomes a theme at this point, right? Okay, and it's like education is seen as it's like most important for the philosophical nature, more so than even the plain old auxiliaries, right? The guardians have to be educated the most carefully, right? And I think this is very apropos for us, right? Like not just you and me, but our time, but probably for us too, is because he says the philosopher is like the best character, right? It's like the most powerful natural character, which means if well educated, it's the most like useful for the city, and if ill educated, it is the absolute worst thing that can happen.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite themes in book 6. It's actually a theme. This is how you can tell C.S. Lewis read Plato, because Lewis is big on this theme. He's like, look, if a cow goes bad, it can't be that bad because a cow's not that good.
Yeah.
If a man goes bad, it's really bad because a man's a lot better than a cow. If an angel goes bad, now we're in trouble, right?
Yeah, all of being will fall.
Right. Yeah. So, and this is clearly being derived from, I think it's just pretty obvious he probably pulled this from the Republic, right? Because that's, but Plato's more focused on man, just man, right? But the idea is like, essentially, the better a man is, either the better or worse he can be. Educate, and for this reason, the upbringing, the development is going to be absolutely critical.
Yeah, right? And and so it's sort of like my sister's take on pit bulls, right? Is they're wonderful dogs because you can train them to do whatever you want them to do. but you could train them to be really awful too, right? Or you could train them to be really great. And
it's
so
not,
that's the problem. Right?
It's not like it's not like a Saint Bernard, right? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. They're just kind of dumb, right?
They're just kind of dumb, goofy, no matter what. It's just
they're not going to be magnificently good or magnificently bad, right? Whereas like the pit bull is an exceptionally smart dog, right? So whatever way you train it, man, you have got a force on your hands here.
And I can say that because I have a Saint Bernard. I know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So Saint Bernard people, please don't hate us. Like, and I've met your Saint Bernard. What's your dog's name?
Yeah, Lola. Magnificently goofy by nature, and that's
lovely animal, lover, right? But let's just say
let's just own up to the facts, right?
Yeah, there are brighter bulbs out there. Right.
Good. I'm glad we got Lola in here. Yeah.
Yeah, and then okay, and I think this is important for what will be my read on book 7, is we then get this very, very like stark expression of pessimism about the fate of the philosopher in the city.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like why it's just not a good landscape.
For this to happen, right? For the yeah. It's like, so he says like no city is worthy of the philosopher. Right. I mean, now look at the irony though. Like we're talking about building a city to be run by a philosopher. And then we're told here, don't mistake me for actually proposing a legitimate political project here.
Yeah. And the greatest sophist is just public opinion, right?
Is public opinion. Yeah. And so think of it. And remember, like partly Plato was writing this as a polemic against the sophists. And what are the sophists doing? They too are running schools like Plato is, right? They're so-called educating people. Okay. But Plato would be happy to tell you, if you read the dialogue, the Gorgias, which I think would be a great follow-on for anyone. Okay. Go read the Gorgias, and Gorgias is a famous sophist, right? And he's openly saying, no, I'm training people for conviction, to be able to convince people, to get them to hold your opinions. Like he's happy to stop this at belief. He doesn't think there's anything more than becoming for us to relate ourselves to. So it's both a metaphysical and a rhetorical position for the sophists, right? Okay. Man is the measure, says Protagoras, the sophist, right? And so who's actually running the cities now are the sophists, right? And what are they they're taking the people who could be the philosophers, and they're educating them very, very badly, right? And so this, you can see what Plato's saying here. This is a disaster waiting to happen. That's right. This is a disaster waiting to happen. Right?
Just describing the modern academy, honestly.
Yeah, he's describing the modern academy. He's describing the Greek culture that's about to get its ass kicked by the Macedonian culture, right? Okay, right. All these things. Okay. And so you see my point is like, you can like what this whole business of education here is a shot at the sophists to say, you are not trying to train philosophers, but you're taking the most talented people and you're training them to be this other thing, these sophists, and that is a recipe for disaster. Yeah. And in fact, but now here's the thing: is it's not clear, or Socrates, whoever's voiced this really is, thinks this is an actual possibility to be overcome in a real city. There is no home for the philosopher in the city, right? Which, once again, the irony with what the overall project of the book is really rich there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And for people who aren't picking up what you're laying down, again, it's the idea that, let's just grant that this might not be practically feasible on a large scale. So why are we even bothering to do this? Well, it's a sort of blueprint for your own life. That's going to be the takeaway, right? You're going to run yourself like a dictator, a philosopher king dictator, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's really important. Okay. Yeah. So you get all these people like Karl Popper who like claim that Plato is this like terrible totalitarian and stuff like that. And I said, well, you have a truly truncated understanding of the Republic if you think that, right? Because he's telling you again and again and again, do not take this seriously. As a political program. It wouldn't work if we tried it, and it's not clear that it would. And it seems to be like he's indicting himself as not having full knowledge, which is it's an act of humility, right? Right. And moreover, I challenge anyone to tell me that I shouldn't run myself like a dictator. Myself, not my family, not but myself, right? Like, don't you want reason to tell your passions like where to go, right? I do, right? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen, brother.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. Amen. Right. Okay. So, all right. You then get this, like, what I think is a very, very interesting thing where, we run through our virtues again, right? We've already been told what, like we know what prudence is, and we know what class of people that's associated with, and what faculty the soul is associated with. And then we get, what courage is and what faculty of the soul it's associated with, and we get temperance and all that. And then once again, it's reiterated that justice is this meta virtue of them all, right? But then we're told that even there's something greater even than justice. There's something even greater than the 4 cardinal virtues, right? And this is where we first get our encounter of the form of the good, right? The good here, okay? And you could look at this, through kind of the logical, metaphysical approach to it. So justice is greater than the other 3 virtues because it's the meta virtue. Like you can say of courage and prudence and temperance that they are just, therefore they are participants in justice, right? Okay. But even you can say of justice that it participates in being, right? So even being will be greater than justice, right? Okay. But then Plato seems to have this view in mind, but being is good too, right? You can say of being that it is good, right? And therefore, even greater than being is the good, right? Okay. I think the fact that he, and it's very explicit in the text, that he uses the sun analogy to explain what he means by the good is really important here, because he says, look, there's the things that we can see, okay, and then there's also the light by which we see them, okay, and there's no seeing without the light, okay. So what is the greatest thing? It's not the object seen, however great it is. It's the source of the light by which we see.
Right. It's that by which.
That by which, right? And so it's interesting, like you can see, it's very important, I think, for understanding all sorts of later philosophy, especially even like Heidegger and stuff, is the good isn't one of the things to be seen. It is that by which things are shown to us. It's what reveals to us the other things, right? Do you see that? And, what the heck we mean by that? Well, that's going to be hard because he's saying it's beyond being. It's greater than being, right? It's, in a sense, before being I am, right? Okay. Right. And it is that which sheds the light by which other things can come to the fore for us, okay? Plato goes out of the way to call it the good, okay? So our relationship to it is a kind of attractiveness, right? We desire it, we look to it, right? And it seems like saying that, like, what reveals everything to us is our quest for meaning. It is our quest, for what is best, right?
Yes.
Okay. But it's only in as much as we have a sense of what that is that any of this stuff can be shown to us, right? You see that? Now that would then seem, though, in as much as we see anything at all, the form of the good is already implicit in our like cognitive package, and it's a memory, right?
Right.
So it all folds back into the doctrine of recollection. Yeah.
Excellent. Very, very good.
Right.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of, there was one quote I had back on the point about education, but it's kind of a long, windy paragraph. I'll save it for now since we're kind of moved beyond that. People will probably read it. They don't need us to read the text now.
You better read it, right?
Yeah, you better be reading. This is just to supplement the homework assignments that we're giving you there. So, Jim, let's finish with this because I know we have to hop over to another stream and do some Q&A. What is the key takeaway, do you think, from this chapter that people need to keep in mind before we get to the allegory of the cave in book 6? I'm sorry, book 7.
Yeah. Okay, I think the political pessimism is key, right? I think the form of the good is that by which all things can be seen, but itself cannot be shown, right? Is important. Okay, the divided line is very important. Okay, because as we're like, which we didn't go into, maybe we will here, but because like really the allegory of the cave is sort of, it's a cartoonish explanation of the divided line.
Right. And real quick, for people who aren't familiar, the divided line is Plato holds to these two realms. We have the physical realm and the intelligible realm. So this is where we start
visible versus the intelligible.
Yeah. The visible versus the intelligible. Yeah. Right. Good distinction. And, this is sort of, I guess, where we get a taste of what has later become labeled as extreme realism. So,
and one of the things I find really important for our current situation about the divided line is the bottom end of it. Okay. So you're like at the very lowest level of reality for Plato, you have pure images, like they're images that are created by us, right? They're artifacts, right? And even more so artifacts that are imaging artifacts. Right. And then next up from that, you have like natural objects, and then you get into the universals and the forms, right? So my best explanation of why Plato has such a low view of those stems from, I don't know if you've ever been to spending time in the Twin Cities, okay, but there's a
very little time.
There's a bunch. It's really a fun tradition in Twin Cities. There's a bunch of concrete statues of the Peanuts characters throughout the Twin Cities. Okay, just on street corners.
Well, Milwaukee has the Fonz, so
yeah, there you go. Yeah, and so the thing is to go around town and get your picture taken with as many of these statues as you can. Right? It's fun. Okay, so I'm not afraid of a good time.
It's
right?
fun.
It's fun. Okay, but I remember when I lived there for a year, getting my picture taken by that statue, and I thought, okay, this is what Plato would call nihilism. Okay. because like what are we doing? Like we're pursuing, like we're spending our time getting images made of ourselves with images of nothing.
That's
it's
perfect.
It's great. Like you want a third order image of yourself of an image of a fictional image.
Right. We're getting further and further and further away from.
Yeah, like we are like running from the good as fast as we can. We are running from the real light as fast as we can and chasing the shadows cast by the light fast as we can. Yeah. Nothing against the Twin Cities. Love it. Right. Okay. Nothing against the Peanut statues, but you see but I mean, and I remember thinking this in 2002 when I lived in St. Paul, right? And think of it now, like how much time do we spend like snatching selfies of ourselves, right? So that, like that image can be like put up on another image, right? Yeah, and so it's like we are turning from the real and only looking to the simulacrum of the real.
Yeah. That is all right. So that's a great note to end with. Stay tuned, friends, because book 7 is obviously the famous allegory of the cave. Really pumped for that. And join us because we're going to end this stream. And in about, I don't know, give us 5 minutes. We're going to kick up another stream. We're just going to have a chill jam sesh Q&A. We'll see you guys there. Peace.
It's Friday, man.
It's Friday. We're going to have some fun.